Welcome. Thank you for coming. So we're learning about winter driving here and how to be safe with Rod Cole. There are some evaluations on the back table. So when you're ready, you can tell us what you thought of the program, other library programs you'd like to see us do. There are also some little flyers for future upcoming events. And then there are some handouts that he'll explain shortly. And thank you so much for coming. I'll let him take over.
So, yes, I'm Rodney Cole, and I am a wilderness survival skills instructor. Now, I didn't plan on becoming a wilderness survival skills instructor. I became one because of a clerical error on my very first active duty day in the Army. I was going, I was commissioned as a second lieutenant in June 1976. But the Army didn't have any classes open until October. So I went and did some graduate work across the summer. And on the selected day in October, which was Halloween, I got myself from Michigan down to Fort Benning, Georgia, very, very early in the morning. About 6 o'clock in the morning, I arrived there. There's a phone at the airport. It says, call this number for your ride to Fort Benning. I called. Sergeant on the other end answered and says, yeah, yes, sir. We'll be there in about 30 minutes. 30 minutes later, he shows up. He's going to take me to where I need to go very early on October 31st. He's going to do it. He says, sir, you're brand new. I said, yes. He says, well, let me offer you some suggestions. Okay. Says, the order that you're supposed to go in is in processing, medical, housing, financial. Okay. He says, if you're smart, sir, you won't do that. I said, okay, what am I going to do? He said, go to housing first. That way you get the first choice of where you're going to stay. Okay, makes sense. It's early in the morning and there'll be somebody there. There's not going to be anybody in administration till 9 o'clock. Nobody's going to be in medical till 9. Nobody's going to be in financial till 9. Go get yourself your room first and pick a room. It's not by an elevator. And it's not by one of the commons rooms where guys will be up late at night. Okay, that's what I'll do. So he takes me there, and they have these gigantic 4-story buildings that are built in a square at Fort Benning where all unmarried officers like me are going to stay. And I go in, and sure enough, there's somebody there. And I told the person there what I wanted. I wanted a room on the inside, not close to an elevator, not next to a commons room. They said, no problem. Got me a place, got my keys, went, dropped off my stuff. And my orders from the Army said, civilian attire is perfectly acceptable. Sergeant said, if you want to make your life easier, sir, you really ought to get into uniform. Okay, fine. I go to my new place, my apartment, get into uniform. He takes me over, gets me some breakfast, drops me off to get breakfast, and I walk a quarter mile away to admin, sign in for administration. So I go in. I'm the first guy in line, so I get to the first person. There's what the Army calls a clerk typist. That's someone who's going to take information and type it in. Well, in those days, you actually had a file folder. Remember file folders? And on that front of that file folder, they put information. So they wanted, my full name and my permanent address and what state they take out taxes from. And it's a whole laundry list of stuff. And I already had it. I was already knew what they wanted, all the telephone numbers, all the addresses, everything was there. And we get done. It took 40 minutes or so. And the clerk typist says, oh, by the way, do you have any special skills? And I said, yes, I have one special skill I want the Army to know about. I know how to ski. I'm a ski. Clerk typist goes to my file, and under specialist, they put ski. only they didn't spell it capital S-K-I. No. When they put it on my file, they did capital S, a capital K, and a capital I. Now, most logical people would think, what's the difference? It's the same word. It's not in the Army. Because with just one capital letter, K-I, it means you know how to ski. But with 3 capital letters, it means you are a skilled knowledge instructor, something that I didn't want to be. And it was going to taint my career for, well, really the next 20 years, but the next 12 for sure. Instead of doing what I wanted to do, I was going to do stuff that the Army wanted me to do. I was going to be a skilled knowledge instructor. I didn't find out about it for 12 years. And it was because an old friend of mine, who I'd helped out a lot, she happened to be at Army Personnel Command, and she called me up one day saying, hey, there's an assignment for a reservist like you. I said, okay. And I said, and somehow I said, why do they keep sending me to these assignments? This is really not what I want. She says, well, let me look. She says, oh, I got your file here. He says, oh, says, you're something special. You're a skilled knowledge instructor. I said, no, I'm not. She says, well, the Army says you are. I said, I know how to ski, S-K-I. She says, no, sorry. You're a skilled knowledge instructor. That's why you are teaching wilderness survival for the United States Army Special Forces. 20 years, my life was changed because of 2 capital letters. I became a skilled knowledge instructor. This class is called Winter Driving Survival. That's a misnomer. What this class really is how to survive being trapped in your car overnight in the winter. And why am I good at that? Because it's happened to me 11 times. 11 nights, well, actually 13 nights, I've been trapped in my vehicle overnight in the middle of winter, usually because of ice storms. Sometimes they just closed the roads because there were too much snow. And part of it happened because I lived for about 15 years in either Georgia or Alabama, but my home is in Michigan. And so each winter I'd be driving back home up I-75 or I-69, one or the other, and the storms would come and I'd be trapped in my car. Let me tell you about the first time it happened to me. The first time it happened to me was way back, yes, I'm old, 1978, January 1978. In the Army, it just so happened that as an officer, every so often you have what's called staff duty. Staff duty means that you become the representative for the commanding general for the day. He may be off somewhere and you'll be in an office with people who are going to help you, but you make the decisions for the general. And I, Christmas of 1977, had staff duty on Christmas Day and New Year's Day, which meant I couldn't go home for Christmas because I had to be on duty Christmas Day and New Year's Day. Okay, fine. A lot of what you do those days, there's nothing happening, just twiddling your thumbs. You get in an Army vehicle and you drive around post a couple of times, like once at about 11 o'clock in the morning and once about 4 o'clock in the afternoon and once about 9 o'clock at night. You drive around and you check things here and there. But basically, you're just sitting around all day. So I said, well, I'm on Christmas Day. The guy who's going to be on Christmas Eve, he's married and he's got young kids. So I said, well, you know what? I'm going to go to him, even though I barely knew him. I said, hey, look, I got all day Christmas Day. I got nothing I can do. There's nothing happening that I can do on Christmas Eve. why don't I pull duty for you? You go with your kids. Fine. I'm going to do that Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and then I'm going to do almost the exact same thing New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. So on Christmas Eve, I'm doing my thing in the office for the general, and the general walks in. I report to him, tell him there's nothing going on, everything is hunky-dory. He's happy, shakes my hand, introduces himself to me. One of the first times I'd really ever talked to him at all. He says, very fine, carry on. He leaves. Next afternoon, general comes back. He says, you're here again. I said, yeah, this is my real day. I was just doing duty for somebody else yesterday. He says, oh, very good. He gets me a plate of cookies and some turkey and stuff that he had left over. Tell him everything's hunky-dory. He goes on. New Year's Eve, same story. New Year's Day, same story. General comes in each one of those days. I tell him everything is fine. He's happy. He's learning who I am because he's now seen me 4 times in less than a week. He's getting to know me. So on the last day, on New Year's Day, he comes in and he says, well, why are you still here? You know, I've now seen you 4 times in a week. I said, sir, in my unit, I am the only bachelor officer, the only unmarried officer in the unit. So the battalion commander, my commander, decided that I was going to be the duty officer for all of this time period while everybody else was going away and having fun. General says, that doesn't sound fair. I said, well, it is what it is. I am the only unmarried officer. And he says, we'll have to do something about this. So come about January the 6th, we're going back to work. And I haven't had any real vacation. I've been working every single day since December 16th. All the way through, it's now January the 6th. I'm like, okay, I'm going back to work. You know, nothing has changed. When all of a sudden, General comes in. Now we're having a meeting, and there's like 20 of us in this meeting, all mostly young officers. And they're telling us what we're going to be doing for the next couple of weeks. Doesn't sound like a lot of fun, sounds like a lot of work. General comes in and says, oh, by the way, where's your Lieutenant Cole? Right here, sir. Says, Lieutenant, we've looked at what you've done for the last 2.5 weeks. And he hands me a piece of paper. Says, you're on leave for the next 12 days, almost 2 weeks. You're on leave. That means you get paid. You don't have to work. You got nothing else to do. Now, it was a surprise to me. I had no idea this was happening. But what I immediately did after I left and went back to where I was staying is I called up some friends up in Michigan. And I said, hey, guys, I got some leave time. Is anybody going skiing? They said, well, yeah, this coming weekend, we're going. Just pack your stuff. Okay. I'm at Fort Knox. Traverse City is way up here. I'm going to go from Fort Knox up to Traverse City. They're going to have a place, probably on the floor, for at least for me to sleep, and we're going skiing. I'm happy. Get in my car a little bit late in the afternoon, and I'm driving, get on the expressway going up I-75 towards Michigan. Now, if you've ever run that route, you know that it runs more or less straight all the way from Miami all the way up basically to Clare, I-75. It's a nice, great, big, modern expressway. And I'm driving away and I'm looking up ahead. Everything's going fine. I've got my ski clothes in the back seat. I got a sleeping bag. I got a mat to sleep on, extra clothes. I'm happy. Cross over the Ohio River through Cincinnati, and I'm looking ahead and the clouds are getting dark. I'm like, oh, man, doesn't look like fun. Looks like there's a storm coming this way. I'm still driving. We're about 20 or 30 miles north of Cincinnati. I've passed an exit, and I'm looking up ahead, and I see a whole lot of flashing red lights. My thought is, there must be an accident up there. There isn't. There's a rest stop. And there's a whole bunch of Ohio State police officers there. And they're directing everybody into the rest stop. I'm like, and then, as you pull off, there's a guy standing there. He says, hey, there's an ice storm up ahead. You can't drive. Stop here. Wonderful. There's an ice storm. The interstate is closed up ahead of me, and it's coming at me. It's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. For reasons that I still have no logic for, when I got off into the rest stop, I went around to where you park cars, and I went all the way to the very farthest one north and pulled in and parked my vehicle at the very last parking spot. And right next to me, my car's here, right next to me is this great big green dumpster. You know, the kind of dumpsters that they have all over the place. Big dumpster. And there's a whole bunch of cardboard boxes sticking out. And just as I pull in, that icy rain is starting to fall. I'm like, that's not good. That icy rain is going to freeze my car into a solid block of ice. So I got out and did the first smart thing that when you're going to get caught in your vehicle overnight. I went to that dumpster and I pulled out some of these big boxes, flattened them out, and I put one over my windshield. And then I put one sort of hanging over the side where my side window is, over the other side window, some over the back window. I put some over the hood and some over the top of my car. That way, the icy rain would stick to the cardboard and wouldn't freeze my doors shut. So I got my car all covered up. It's about 3 in the afternoon, and I go over to the rest stop to go to the bathroom, and on every rest stop, they have a great big map of the local area. And it says, you're here. And I'm looking, and about a mile away, there's an exit, and there's a town. And this icy rain is coming down. And I look at everything I've got in my vehicle. I have a sleeping bag. It's a winter sleeping bag. I'm good. I have extra clothes. I'm good. I have some snacks. Not a lot, but enough. You always get snacks when you travel. I'm good. What am I going to do? Well, it's 3 in the afternoon. It's not going to be dark till 5 o'clock or so. And I'm looking at the map saying, I can go over the fence. I can go down the service road, and the town is there a mile away. I'm going to town. So I get out my winter clothes, and I go for a walk. A mile away, I get to town. In town, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do to make this miserable night? I wasn't sure it was a night, but I knew it was going to be a while, better. So the first place I come to, of course, there's a hardware store, and right across the street, there's an antique store, sort of an antique / thrift shop. I go there first. This is what I do. The first thing I got, and this is something that in the old days, every book would have told you to never, 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 ever get. And that is a kerosene lantern. See how small and cute this is? Well, it is really small and it's really cute. But when you put kerosene in here and you light the wick inside here, the amount of heat coming off of that will turn the inside of a car into a 90-degree sauna in about an hour. These things really work. Now, if you read the old books, they would say, you never put something burning inside the vehicle. And that's kind of true. But kerosene, if you leave your window cracked just 1/8 of an inch, is not going to make enough carbon monoxide to make you sick. It just does. It burns so cleanly, you don't get the carbon monoxide that's going to kill you. And it puts out enough heat that I had to keep turning it down and turning it down all night because the inside of the car was hot, really hot. The next thing I did, I had a sleeping bag. And the sleeping bag is good But at the thrift shop, I bought one of these, an old Army wool blanket. The nice thing about a wool blanket, as opposed to a lot of other things, is you sweat 24 hours a day. And if you're wearing a cotton blanket, that sweat collects on the cotton blanket. It doesn't collect on a wool blanket. On a wool blanket, it works its way all the way through and out. It stays dry and you stay warm. I had this, I had a wool blanket, I had a lantern, and last and not least, I couldn't find another blanket, but I did find one of these giant scarves. Just about like this one, except I remember it was a great big green one. And that, of course, became my neck wrap. When you keep the back of your neck warm, you keep lots and lots of your heat in. You put it over the top of your head, and almost 90% of your heat loss is coming up for the night. So I go to the thrift store, antique store. I got a lantern. I got a blanket. I got a scarf. I already had gloves, didn't need that. Walk across to the hardware store, bought a jug of kerosene, just a quart of kerosene. That was good. And then I take and go get some more snacks. I got cans of soup, got crackers, I got cheese, I got, of course, cookies, because when you're young, that's what you get, some chips, other things to eat, and, where did I put it? Oh, it's over here. And I saw one of these, and I thought, you know, this might be a smart idea. It was one of these canister stoves, a stove to screw on top of it, and a cup, bowl to heat up water and to cook my soup in. And in the morning, I actually made hot water and had oatmeal. I took care the very first time I ever got caught out in a vehicle with the most necessary things. One, I had something to sleep in. Two, I had food to eat. Three, I had an extra source of warmth. And four, where's it at? Oh, and fourth, I had a way to keep myself extra warm. As luck would have it, the ice storm came in that night. It was bad. At somewhere around 2 o'clock in the morning, I got out of my vehicle. I had almost 3/4 of an inch of ice on top of my vehicle, on top of that cardboard that I'd put on top. Went back over to the rest stop, came back, got back to sleep. At about 8 o'clock in the morning, state police guys come back into the rest stop. They say, you know, they got the bullhorn, please gather around. Yes, we're gathered around. Says we're in luck. Says there's a warm coming through. Hopefully between 9 and 10 o'clock, we're going to open the highway back up. It was more like 10:30 before it actually got open, but still not bad. I continued on. That was my first night in a vehicle overnight in the winter, and I made, in retrospect, some really good choices. Let's go on to what it is we need, you need, when we're taking and preparing a vehicle for winter. I've got this one called Car First Aid. It's a dark yellow, if you're following along. I also have the blue checklists. There are several of them about things that you might want to put in your vehicle. AAA tells us you want a spare tire. Absolutely. Maybe a tire plug kit and one of those cans where you can inflate a flat tire. Not a bad idea. Jump starter battery. Now, I deliver medical supplies, and in my personal work truck now and for the last 11 years, I've had one of these jump starter kits. Jump starter kits. I know for sure that I have attempted to use them at one time or another, sometime in the last 11 years, 7 different times. 7 times. And I'm 0 for 7. Never once did these have enough power in them to start my vehicle. Maybe you'll have better luck. But for the cost of them now, my thoughts are probably not. Toe strap, absolutely. They call it a chubble, a shovel. Okay, I agree with that. Let's take a look on the back. I believe, and all my experience has proven to be right, that of all those things, there are 2 that you should have. And the first one is a good set of jumper cables, quality set of jumper cables, thick set of jumper cables. You don't buy the thinnest, cheapest ones you can buy. The good ones usually come in a case, and this one does have its own case. Why? Because you are much more likely, 3 times more likely, to have to jumpstart your vehicle than you are to have to change batteries change tires in your car. You are 3 times more likely to have a dead battery than a flat tire. And when you get a flat tire nowadays, 90% of the time, AAA is going to send somebody to jack it up, change the tire for you, and be on your way. Can you plug them? Yes. Put the aerosol in? Yes. Does it work? Yes. But it's not easy. It doesn't work all the time. The other thing that I believe in, because I've used them, are flares. Most of the flares that you buy today come in a plastic container. They will, if they're in the plastic container, 99.99999 times out of 10, they're going to start. So if you are at the side of the road and you need to mark your vehicle, flare's going to work. Do the flashing lights and the triangles work? Yes, but these are pretty much guaranteed. And they're a great emergency fire starter if you ever have to start a fire in your vehicle. On the list, the next thing they talk about, and I thought I put it right here, I must have covered it up with my stuff. Hang on, I covered it up somewhere. Here it is. I knew I had it. Is a flashlight. And flashlights are great, but headlamps are better. Because if you're caught and you need to do something outside of your car at night, and that's what this whole class is about, those lights, they work, and you've still got your hands. These are not, most days, that much more expensive than a flashlight. And shut off. Come on, shut off. Good. And you can get good, inexpensive ones that run on the LED lights, not the incandescent lights. And the LED lights, when you drop them, they're not going to break. That's the great thing about LED lights. The old style flashlights that we carried for generations, you'll have problems with them. The other kind is one of these, where you have a whole series of lights. And if you need to set it down to work on something, that works pretty well. They almost always have hooks that you can hang something from if you need to do that. And because they're larger, they have more batteries in them. They'll usually last way more than the little bitty headlamps. I think that's a great idea. Also on the list, jumper cables, flashlights, blankets we've already talked about. And the other things that they talk about is kitty litter. Kitty litter. A small container of kitty litter in your trunk will help with traction. And then once you've used it, it will pretty much melt away into something that's not toxic. So that's a pretty good idea. They also talk about having a radio. Well, every radio I've ever seen, every vehicle I've ever been in has a radio, basically. So do you need a separate radio? Maybe, maybe not. The one thing about small survival radios is that a lot of times they'll have the weather channel on them. And the weather channel will broadcast 24 hours a day, telling you what the local conditions are and how things are either changing for the better or for the worse. And that only comes on those specialized radios that have the weather channel. I have two of them because I believe in it, but you don't have to have them. They work well. If you have the money, not a bad idea. A shovel, a snow shovel, or an army shovel is always a good idea. Having a car charger, a way to charge your cell phone in your vehicle all the time, I think is a smart idea. For as inexpensive as they are, under $10, having a charger in your vehicle is a good idea. Let's talk about one of the worst myths we have in winter survival. You've gone somewhere, you've gotten stopped, you can't go anymore, it's winter. And what the books tell you is turn your car on for 10 minutes and then turn it off and sit for 50 minutes in a nice cold car, and then come back and turn your vehicle on for 10 minutes and warm your vehicle up and then sit in a cold car for 50 minutes. Now, maybe 80 years ago, that was good advice. But nowadays, that advice is horrible. Horrible. Why? Because you turn your vehicle on, it's running. Your heater's running. You've got lights. You've got your radio. And your battery is staying charged. And over the course of, let's say, the entire night that you're out there, call it 9 hours during the winter of darkness. During those 9 hours, you're probably going to burn 1.3 gallons of gasoline in your car. In 8 hours, your car's idling. It runs at such a slow pace and it sucks up so little gasoline that in 9 hours, you've used a little over 1 gallon of gas. Is it worth it to spend those 9 50-minute blocks in a cold car for 10 minutes, for 10 minutes of warmth? Or do you want to run your car all night long for 1 gallon of gas? I'm running the vehicle. I've learned my lesson the hard way. In Colorado, I was driving my delivery vehicle, and I knew that I was going to get caught out more than 100 miles away from where my branch was, because I had to make a very special delivery, 30 miles to the east of Denver. And I knew there was a storm coming, so I had all my gear packed. I had everything ready. And sure enough, when I got out there, first thing I did was fill up the tank again. And the company was going to pay for a hotel room for me because the storm was there. Well, that would have been great if it hadn't been an ice storm and it wiped out the electricity everywhere. So what did I do? I took my work truck, I pulled into Walmart parking lot, parked it there. They didn't have any lights, they didn't have any power, but I knew that nobody was going to be running into me either in the back of the parking lot. And I'm in my truck and I've got a sleeping bag, I got blankets, I even have a pillow, I got extra clothes, got food, I got snacks, I got everything I could possibly need. And I have a piece of plywood about 2 foot square that I can lay between the driver's seat and the passenger seat, so I have a nice bed. Pull in, started the vehicle with a full tank of gas, diesel fuel, diesel. And it ran all night from 9 o'clock at night till 9 o'clock the next morning, 12 hours. And when I got up in the morning and the power came back on and I went to one of the fast food places and got breakfast, I came back to my vehicle, started it back up, and the needle was still on full. Run your vehicle. In the old days, you didn't. The only thing that you need to think about doing that is your exhaust pipe. Because if your exhaust pipe gets covered up with snow, then that carbon monoxide in the vehicle can back up, particularly if you're in a car. It will do it a lot if it's in a car. But if your exhaust pipe's open, there's no snow cover in it, there is no reason not to run your vehicle and stay warm all night long. Last and certainly not least, I am a firm believer that every vehicle needs one of these, your basic first aid kit. You can see I've been carrying this around for a long time, have never had to use it, but it's got Band-Aids in it. It has some flex wrap in it. It's got some cleaning stuff in it. It's a good, very good Johnson & Johnson first aid kit. I think everybody should have one of these in your vehicle, if not for yourself, or if somebody else is ever going to need them. Let's go to the blue one. The blue one is sort of your checklist, and there's two, it's double-sided. Even when I was in Colorado, where I needed a winter survival kit all the time in every vehicle that we drove, I never had all of this stuff in my vehicle. A lot of it, yes. All of it, no. This checklist is just a memory jogger for you to think about what things you need to have. Do you need to have a toolkit? Maybe. Should you have an escape tool that you can break windows? Probably. A jack comes in every vehicle. Spare tire, same way. A tow strap, probably only if you're driving a truck. In a car, it may not do you a whole lot of good. I have never had to use a siphon. I have used them, but I've never had to use one. Don't think you need one. I stopped carrying a gas can in any of my vehicles, with the exception of a pickup truck where I could put it in the back bed. I don't have a gas can in any car. I don't have a gas can in any work truck. Compressor, They either work or they don't. So if you think you need one, yes. Fire extinguisher, yes. Power inverter. A power inverter means that you can plug in 110-volt stuff. You plug it into your cigarette lighter, and then you can plug in 110-volt stuff. And I have actually used them more than once, but not for survival. I've used them when I knew I was going to go to a remote location and I was going to have either extra big like floodlights that you would have at a construction site to light stuff up, or I was going to have to run a small saw where I was going to have to cut some boards. Other than that, I've never seen a whole lot of use for them. Communication cell phone, absolutely. I think like most people nowadays, we live off our cell phones nowadays. Nothing wrong with that. Signal flares, yes, and a whistle. And we'll get to whistles here later some more. So now, survival blanket. Survival blanket. That's one of these. That's yours. A survival blanket is really, really, really really, 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 really cheap insurance in the winter. How do I know that? Well, this is what a survival blanket looks like. And you get to be my victim. And we're going to take the survival blanket. We're going to cross it over. And we're going to hold it down here low so that it covers the most part of our body. And we're going to sit there and we're going to say, well, this thing looks cheap. This thing looks useless. This thing looks stupid. This thing looks like a gimmick. Guess what? You're sitting there and you're thinking about it and you're using it. And I'm going to go off camera because somebody else is going to wrap up in it. Wrap yourself up. And I'm looking at my watch. You've been wrapped up about 45 seconds. Can you tell the difference between now and before when you had it on? Yeah. That Mylar, which is brought to us by the people who go to outer space, that Mylar blanket reflects 90% of your own body heat back inside. 90%. Think about it. We have to say at 98.6, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to be perfectly average and comfortable. Which means that somewhere in this engine we call a body, it's producing heat 24 hours a day to keep us warm, to keep us functional. And that blanket will do just that. It's going to reflect that heat back to you. The more you wrap up in it and the more you can get it close around you, particularly if you have either A, the back of your neck covered, or B, your legs from here to here covered, the warmer you're going to stay. So these blankets, when you go to any big box store, somewhere between $3 and $5 a piece. A lot of people, even myself, think of them as pretty much a one-use item. You use it one time, you'll never get it folded back into that nice little square again. But it's going to work. I have used them on an island in the middle of winter in northern Michigan overnight when I had very little except this in the way, and I was perfectly comfortable. Now, I did have to sit up, so I didn't lay down a whole lot, But overnight, for the 9 or 10 hours that I was there, I did not freeze. I did not shiver because I had a space plane. Second, I won't torture you too much anymore. But you say, well, wait a minute. One of these is about $4. Okay. Too much. Too expensive. Not going to do it. I want something that's just as good and it's cheaper. I can take care of you. Because what we're going to do, what you're going to do, is you're going to go to one of the dollar stores and you're going to get one of these, a 30-gallon trash bag. A 30-gallon trash bag. There are 9 of them in here for $1.25. Do the math. It's about, less than 20 cents a piece. If you do something that your mother has told you to never, ever, 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 ever do, and you take this plastic bag, take your finger and you punch a hole in it so that it's big enough that you can put a plastic bag over your head, even though your mother told you to never do it. This plastic bag will contain 80% of your body. Get it all the way down. That target. Once you get the second one, sound. Back on sound. Are we back good? We're good. You take the second one and you step in it. And you've now built yourself a 40-cent sleeping bag in your car. Is that a bargain? Oh, yeah, buddy, it is. 40 cents you have, and you will retain 80% of your body heat. Pretty good. There is a creep out to it. About every 3 hours, you're going to have to take it off. Take the bag, turn it inside out, and put it back on because you sweat all night long. That's all that moisture that you sweat out gets collected on what is now the outside, was the inside of the bag. You don't want the moisture. You want the warmth. 40-cent bargain, a garbage bag. Water. Water, I'm a long-distance hiker. And I have driven my poor brothers absolutely insane because I have said the same thing more than once. Water is life. Water is life. If you're out hiking, you don't have to be wearing a hiking shirt. You don't have to be wearing hiking pants. You don't even have to be wearing underwear or shoes or socks, and you can still hike. You don't have to have a backpack. You don't have to have food. You don't have to have a stove, and you can still hike. But if you don't have water to drink, I don't care how well dressed you are, how poorly dressed you are, how much equipment you have, how much you paid for all that equipment. If you don't have water, you're only doing one thing. You're starting here where you have no water, and you're walking to the place where you are going to collapse and die. Water is life. I keep water bottles in my vehicle 365 days a year. Yes, they freeze because it's Michigan, but I've got the water. I can melt it. Or I can take that same water bottle, put it inside my shirt, and my body heat will keep it liquid. But if you don't have water, all you're doing is walking to the place where you're going to die. Survival food, survival bars. I'm an absolute, we're on the green sheet still, or I'm sorry, blue sheet. I believe in granola bars. There are a number of kinds that I like. Even the ones that I don't like work. I also do candy bars in winter. I can put any type of candy bar in my vehicle. Yes, they're going to freeze, but I can still eat them. In the summertime, you can't put chocolate-covered bars in your vehicle because they're going to turn to a soupy mess because it's hot in Michigan. But survival bars, yes. We already talked about, oh, we have not talked about it. I put it here somewhere. Ah, here it is. One and two. The first one is a Bic brand cigarette lighter. I strike it, and I have instant gratification. I have flame. Notice, this is a Ranger lighter, and I get it from a man named Andrew Ogle, who has a YouTube site. It's called Ranger Survival and Fieldcraft. And this was taught to him and almost every other soldier who goes through Army Ranger School. I didn't have one when I went through. He went through about 30 years after I did. And what's in here is a Bic brand lighter, and it's a Bic brand, not a Scripto, not a Rothko, not a Zippo. It's Bic, because the ferro rod is that thing that makes sparks when you strike it. That ferro rod that lights my Bic lighter is 5 times bigger in a Bic lighter than it is in any of the other cigarette lighters made today. The Bic is 5 times bigger, so they have to pay more. I'm okay with instant gratification. It has duct tape that is bright colored, yellow in this case. You can't see it, but in here, there are guitar picks. The picks that guitarists use because they're made out of cellulose. Cellulose fibers are really easy to light. You scrape them up just a little bit, you strike them with one of these, and you get a really great flame. On the other end, you've got your basic chapstick. I purposely picked a chapstick that is not made with natural beeswax. I purposely picked one that is made with petroleum products because they burn longer. Will the ones that are made out of beeswax burn? Yes. The ones that are made out of Vaseline burn longer and light easier. They're connected with a piece of paracord, got a knot at each end, some extra duct tape. And the duct tape is important because duct tape, once you unwrap it and you fluff it up a little bit, is extremely flammable. It's a Ranger lighter. You need flame. The other main force of flame is not matches. It's a ferrocerium rod. Ferro rod is what we call them. And when you take your little striker, and we go back, we're going to do some math. We know that when it's straight up and down, that's 90 degrees. We know halfway between is 45 degrees. Halfway between 45 and 90 is 22 and a half. And 22 and a half degrees is about the angle you want in order to get, oops, or you make me a liar, in order to get your sparks, about 22 and a half degrees. 90 doesn't work, 45 kind of works, but 22 and a half usually will work the best. Ferrocerium rod. Back to our list. Local maps, yes. Rainproof pen, I prefer pencils because pencils will work even when it's wet. And rainproof pens are expensive. I mean, you're talking $15, $20. I can buy a lot of really good, well-made pencils for $15. And a compass. I have compass in every vehicle, but I'm a wilderness survival instructor, so I kind of need them. Do you need a compass? Maybe, maybe not. Not a bad idea. First aid kit we talked about, extra clothes. The skivvy roll. Skivvy roll is a set of underwear and a set of wool socks and a t-shirt. Underwear, t-shirt, set of socks. That way, after you've been sleeping in your clothes all night long, you can change at least your underwear and your socks and your t-shirt into something that's fresh. You'll feel better and you'll stay warmer because your clothes, you've sweated in them all night long. Last, and certainly not least, a good pair of, and I prefer, wool gloves. These have leather palms. But whatever your preferred glove or even better, mittens are, have a set in your vehicle. Let's see, this is coming up. This is coming up. What have I forgotten? Oops. Hold on. Back to the list. First aid clothes. So, garbage bags. Every vehicle in my family has garbage bags in the glove compartment. Every vehicle in my family has at least one, and usually 3, space blankets in the glove compartment. Every vehicle has bottles of water right now in them, because those are the things that you need first and foremost if you get caught overnight in your vehicle. Paracord or some type of cordage is always useful. Paracord or some type of cordage, I believe, is always useful. There's something that you can do with this, whether you're going to put one side in the back of one window and one in the other side, and then roll your windows all the way up, and you got a place to hang stuff right behind your driver's seat. Maybe you've got to bundle stuff up. Maybe you're going to get out and you're going to walk somewhere because you have to. You can make a very quick backpack with just some paracord. Tie everything up, put it in a bundle, carry it along with you. Paracord or some type of cordage should be in every vehicle. Duct tape. This is a subject that I love, and I have a buddy who can talk about duct tape for well over an hour. Now, he's ADD, but he's really intelligent, and doesn't help that he's a Marine, but I love him anyway. Duct tape, the better the quality is, the better the adhesive is, the longer it will stay wherever it is you want. Having said that, the very first time when I got caught out in a vehicle, I used just everyday standard grade duct tape, and it worked just fine. But my life is worth more, so I carry the better stuff. Duct tape in my vehicles, on me, 24 hours a day. Get duct tape. Zip ties are great, and then we already talked about a shovel. The back sheet is very similar. The one thing that it has there on it, go to the very bottom of the list. Next to last is a car survival kit. Now, it doesn't tell us what a car survival kit is, but I'm going to tell you myself. I prefer one of these smaller plastic containers about the size of a shoebox. But I have more experience, 11 times, being caught out in a vehicle. And when I open it up, I look, and there's a space blanket, and there's a whistle, and there's fire starter already in my survival kit. And now you have the same thing. In there are things to start a fire with, tinder and kindling. There's some paracord. There's some cotton balls. There's some makeup pad remove for where you remove makeup with. They're cotton, so they'll light really easily. There's a piece of a stick. Why would there be a piece of a stick in your survival kit? Because that stick is fat wood. Fat wood is a part of a pine tree where all the resin in the tree has flowed down into a central area. What usually happens is a branch breaks off and the tree is still putting sap up into the branch until it can't get any more in there. And then it stops and all that sap goes down to where the tree branch was originally came out of the tree. So it's impregnated with all of that pine sap, which is highly flammable, easy to light. So that's why you have a stick in your survival kit. There is a whistle in your survival kit because being able to signal, you can only shout for so long. I mean, I'm used to talking because I used to be a teacher. You know, I would talk for about 7 hours a day, but most people can't yell for more than about 6 minutes. After about 6 minutes, they're sore and tired. But a whistle, you can blow it for 12 hours, signaling people, and you're still good. Paracord, there's a little in your bag if you open it up. The other thing that I learned the hard way you should have is this little booklet of just blank paper, mostly blank or lined paper, so that you can write notes on it. Yours is the pink one, I think. Something to write notes on, like, you know, I need to put more water in my vehicle. I wish I had an extra wool blanket in the back seat. Notes about things that have happened. Hopefully not a last will and testament because you got all of this stuff. You shouldn't need it. It's in a shoebox. Let me continue. Food, food, food. When I've been, besides teaching this class, I've also been out and either in the Army or wilderness survival schools had put me out in what most people would call a survival situation, which means I was multiple nights, usually at least 3 and a lot of times 6 or 7, with a bare minimum of equipment. And the one thing that I craved has always been crackers every single time. I like cheese crackers. A lot of guys like peanut butter crackers. These things that you can buy at the dollar store, the chicken salad with crackers in them, They may not be 100% filling, but they sure are satisfying when you're stuck in a vehicle, when you're hungry. They are very satisfying. I carry peanut butter all the time because this small little package of, one little thing of peanut butter is 120 calories in that little packet. That's a lot of calories. 120. Granola bars or some other type of bites, granola bites, great. Flavoring my water. Lemon water, lemonade out of these little packages. You put one. I put them in a 2-quart. I use one package for 2-quart, and you should have 2 for a 2-quart because they're so sweet to me. I don't need 2 of them in a big 2-quart, but they work. What my brother refers to as goo. My older brother, and you see I'm older, he's even older than me, he still does triathlons. That means he's going to swim for a mile at 76 years old. And then he's going to get out, he's going to get on his bicycle, and he's going to bicycle for 22 miles. When he gets off that, he's going to park his bicycle and he's going to run for 13 miles at 76 years old. And he'll go through these things of goo, these honey stingers, and they come in lots and lots and lots of different flavors. He'll probably do 6 of those over the course of a triathlon for the extra fast energy it gets you. There's a lot of energy. I'm trying to remember the number of calories in here, but I think it's like 115 calories in this one little thing. Think about it. A quarter pounder has 300. So, that's a third of a quarter pounder right there. Other type of sweet crackers, particularly when I can find ones that are chocolate chip. I'm a chocolate addict. I admit it. Like those. We already talked about a headlamp. This comes from the Dollar Tree. It's $1.25, but I did take out the batteries that came with it and I put in quality batteries. This light, under normal conditions, will last, well, on the high, it's going to last about 4 hours with good batteries. On medium, it's going to last about 9 hours. That's a lot of light for the cost of 3 AAA batteries, good quality ones. And then it's an emergency flasher if there's a problem. One of the things that we used to think of a lot 5 years ago, and somehow we've gotten away from, is a battery pack for our phone. The battery packs, when they first came out, were in the $40 to $50 range. Now you can buy them for about $12 that are even bigger and last longer. They're a great bargain. This one, I didn't buy it. Someone else bought it at Walmart. Bought it at Walmart, so it's under $15, and it will recharge my phone. It will take my phone from completely dead to 100% charge 6 times. Completely dead, fully charged 6 times. That's a bargain. That you can make an awful lot of phone calls. You can send an awful lot of messages with a battery pack. When things get bad, and they will, you're going to need extra help. Sometimes, maybe, you're going to run out of gas. Or maybe the vehicle is just flat out broken and won't run anymore. What do? The first thing you do is you buy some of these hand warmers, chemical heat hand warmers. When you tear them apart and open them up, they react with oxygen, and they say that they'll produce heat for about 7.5 hours. When these first came out 35, 40 years ago, they said the same thing, and they were good for about 2 hours. But these new versions from Grabber, when they say 7.5 hours of warmth, they're probably right. I have tested them. They are good. Also, a body warmer. A body warmer is great in that you take it, you open it up, and it's got some sticky, and you can put it either A, here in the middle of your chest, or B, preferably here in the middle of your lower back, because there's blood vessels in there that need to be warmed. And it's great if you have someone who's injured, because the warmth will help keep them out of going to shock. So I always keep them in my vehicle. Body warmers. More granola bars. Kick it up a notch. Go to one of the outdoor stores and get the extra large emergency blanket. It is thicker than the Mylar blanket, and it is not a one-use item. You can use these multiple times. Now, they're not a full space blanket, but they're pretty close. It's extra large, so as big as the Mylar blankets are, these are even larger. They do the exact same thing, because you can really put 2 people under one of these, and they really work. Hard candies. Now, I've already told you I'm a chocoholic, and I am, but hard candies are really, really, really satisfying when you're caught in your vehicle for a long period of time. You may eat 3 or 4 of them in an hour. You'll get that extra sugar, and it's just mentally satisfying to have hard candies. I strongly recommend having those. A spoon, a really good spoon. These are made of Lexan. They're pretty much impossible to break. They cost a little over $1 at most sporting goods stores. And for using it, either eating soup or a can of anything, or getting tuna fish out of one of those packets, great. Last and certainly not least, your own personal hygiene kit. There is 2 types of toilet paper. There is hand cleaner. Someone must have taken out my little handy wipes, because I normally have a thing of handy wipes in here too. Toilet paper, Kleenex, handy wipes, and hand sanitizer. Personal protection, great to have. Now, this kit that I have just shown you is about the size of a shoebox, and it has more than enough stuff to keep you warm, fed, comfortable for well over 24 hours. It's small enough that you can put it like this, put a couple pieces of duct tape on each end so the top never comes off, throw it in the trunk of your vehicle in October, and in March, when you don't need it anymore, you can take it out, go through the stuff, and get ready for the next year. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that's not what I was taught in survival. In survival, I went up to the next bigger box. It is a much larger box. In it, I have what I wear hiking every winter, and I usually hike 2 times a week every winter, which is mittens, wool mittens. Now, if it's raining, the mittens, yes, can get wet, but wool retains its ability to hold warmth even when they're wet. That's good. I keep one of these, a stocking cap. Now, this one is the Army version. It's made out of a polypropylene fabric. And I guarantee you that with all the experience that the Army had in Afghanistan, they wouldn't have these if they weren't absolutely fabulous. They work. A neck gaiter. The first time I saw neck gaiters, I thought the hikers that were wearing them were out of their mind. And they gave me one of these stupid things. And they're fabulous. You can put it over your head to make a hat and bring it down to just cover up the back of your neck. You can wrap it around your head. You can wrap it around your arms. They really, really, really work. And nowadays, they're inexpensive. When they first came out, they were like $18, $20. Now you can get them for about $4. Neck gaiter. Really bright duct tape. Brighter colors, people notice them. I want to be rescued. I want bright colors. One of those chemical lights. I've never liked them. I have used them. You get what you pay for. The more you pay for them, the longer they last. Get some. I have here my version of an MRE. That is a military ration. This is my version of it. It's got pulled pork, it's got crackers, it's got granola bars, it's got snacks, it's got M&Ms, it's got mixes for both my water bottle and mixes for instant soup, all in one meal. You can get them, a version of them, at almost any Army surplus store, or you can buy them online at eBay. If you buy like a dozen, you can get a pretty good buy on them. They can be like $4 a meal. Now, this version is the ones that are called reduced sodium. The reduced sodium ones have fewer sweets in them. So instead of having the normal 3,000 calories that come in an MRE, these are down to about 2,100 calories. But think about 2,100 calories. It's one meal. You can eat it without heating it up, but it comes with a chemical heater in it where you pour in about a ½ inch of water in the bottom. You get the little pad in the bottom wet. It starts producing heat really quickly, and it will take your meal. In this case, the meal is spaghetti, Italian style with meat sauce, and it will heat it up hot enough that you have to let it cool down before you can eat it. And there's a spoon in here, and there's crackers, and there's peanut butter. You can buy these. I always put the date that I bought them. So this one was Christmas of 23. It's a year old. They're good for 6 years. So, you know, I've got till 2029 to eat it, as long as I don't leave it out in a car in the summer, and we're good to go. Breakfast is the hard thing to make in survival, but they now make these oatmeal packets where you tear it off, you pour your hot water in, and you get your oatmeal without having to dirty anything except a spoon. Good idea. Emergency bivvy. This is kind of like a Mylar blanket that's made into a sleeping bag. Mylar blanket made, and it depends on who made them, but they're as cheap as $7 and as much as about $17. You can find them. Worth every penny. You go to Walmart, you can buy the freeze-dried food. All you got to do is add hot water, wait about 7 minutes, you got a hot, full meal. Most of these will tell you whether they're for 1 or 2 people. This size here is for 2 people. So you got 2 meals if you need it. I'm going to show you some of these. This is a regular full MRE, 3,000 calories. This is pork sausage patty maple flavored. So it is a breakfast meal. There's all kinds of breakfast stuff in this meal, which the Army doesn't do a lot of. Ramen noodles. Ramen noodles. I have always, well, in the past, I always hated ramen noodles. In college, I would go hungry rather than eat ramen noodles. Even for a long time, when I was on active duty in the Army, I'd go hungry before I'd eat one of these. And then I got stuck for 6 days out. I told you I was on an island. And there was ramen noodles. And I ate ramen noodles, and now I eat ramen noodles. Do I think they're better if you add other stuff to it? Yes, I do. But I can at least eat these. Last, well, no, not last. Retort pouches have become a big thing over about the last 4 years, where you have food that all you need to do is drop it into boiling water, let it sit there for about 5 minutes in boiling water. You take it out. It is super hot, and you have a full meal hot in here. A lot of them are meals that will be Indian food. It may be Thai food. You don't see a lot of spaghetti and meatballs, but they make some. But when you walk around, whatever your grocery store choice is, these retort pouches are becoming really, really, really common. They're a little pricey, but they're great, and they taste good, and they're hot meal. And then everybody has seen either chicken or tuna fish, and they now even put pork barbecue in these packets where you just tear them open and eat them. Those are great to add on to meals. All right. I have three last secret weapons. And the first one was here in my hand. I got to have my cup of coffee every morning. Now, when I was younger, when I was in my 20s, it was not unusual for me to have 10 or more cups of coffee in a day. But, I was using up all that energy. I was working really hard. Can't do that anymore. I'm older. But a cup where it's already got sugar and creamer in it and caramel flavoring, oh yeah, I can make one of these. I'm happy. If you don't drink coffee, that's fine. But you want coffee? Absolutely. 2 secret weapons. I'm going to show you the easy one first. And the first one is a candle. Candle. When I got caught out the second time, what I had was one of these, a dollar store candle. I lit it. I put it in my beverage compartment, and my vehicle, which was stopped because we were out of gas, stayed warm the entire night. Stayed warm for an entire night with one candle. These little candles are specifically made, and you can find them made of beeswax in this size. They're made for a little candle lantern. If you find the ones that are beeswax, they'll burn for 9 hours. The ones that are made out of petroleum will burn for only about 5. But the beeswax will burn, that's a secret weapon, for 9 hours. Two things we haven't talked about. And the first thing is a multi-tool. Multi-tools, you get what you pay for. Name brand ones, this one is a Gerber, no, this one's a Leatherman. And this one is called the OHT. OHT, that stands for one hand tool. You can use just one hand, and you can access the tool here. So you have your pliers. And it's got wire cutters that really, really, really work. But you can fold it back up with one hand, and you can use your hand, one hand, to open up a really sharp knife. You can close it with one hand, hopefully without cutting yourself if you're smart. and you open up, and you have a saw. And you open it up, and you have a screwdriver. And you open it up, and you have a Phillips screwdriver. And you go to the opposite side, and you open it up, and you've got a can opener that really actually works. It's sharp. And you've got another flat tip screwdriver, and on the back end, you've got a saw that is incredibly sharp. It is so sharp that I guarantee you can cut through a bone with it. Because I had to cut through a deer bone one time, and I did with just this saw blade. And the other one is another knife blade. One-hand tool, multi-tool. The more you pay, the better your quality. You can buy a cheap one in the $20 range, or you can buy a really good one for $60 to $80. This one is the one made by Gerber that the Army uses now. This is an Army, it's now issued to a lot of soldiers, not all of them. Again, replaceable blade that will cut through barbed wire and all the other tools. This one, made by Gerber, is not a one-hand tool. You need two hands to work and operate it, but the blades are all there. When you need them, it's got the extra blades, just like the one that's made by Leatherman. And last, certainly not least, no, not last but not least, I have two more. I misspoke. A genuine Swiss Army knife. Genuine Swiss Army. It will say Victorinox on it. When you buy one of these and you break a blade, for $8, you send it back to the factory and they replace the blades for life. Or you can buy the cheap version of it, which you'll probably have to sharpen yourself. Has all those wonderful blades. That's great. Now my secret weapon. I have one secret weapon that has stood the test of time since 1978. And that is this, a hand warmer that runs off of lighter fluid. You open it up, you remove the little clippy that is the burner, and you squeeze lighter fluid here into what looks to be wool fabric, although it's actually a type of fabric that won't burn. And so it's some type of synthetic. Once you've got it filled up, and it takes a little while to squeeze it in, it'll take you about 30 seconds. You put the top on. You light it, and you'll get a flame about this big for about 10, 15 seconds. And then you'll just have a red glow. And you put the top back on. You put it in this cute little carrying case. And you put it here. You will have that heat coming up continuously for about 7 hours before you're going to have to refill it. The Joan E, that's Jon space E with the line above it to show that it's pronounced as an E, not a. Joan E is an Aladdin company, and they have been making those hand warmers for about 140 years. And if you got one of these Joni hand warmers that you bought, great, probably your grandfather bought 140 years ago, all the parts are still exactly the same. They have not changed. They've made improvements on the inside that you can't see, but after 140 years, these things, still made every day, still work. It is the best spent money for survival you will ever take. We've been at it for an hour and a half. And I could go for another hour. But what are your questions about what we have done, what we have talked about, the different things that we've seen for how to survive being trapped in your vehicle overnight in Michigan or in winter? you've got handouts, and we didn't go over every single handout. They are memory joggers. Some of them are about your vehicle. Some of them are just like the pink, the green, the beige, and the yellow, light yellow. Those are ideas or memory joggers of what you need when you're doing a class, when you're packing your vehicle. When I pack my vehicle, I'm going with the big kit right here. I'm going to have an entire MRE. I'm going to have a full meal. I'm going to have my hand warmer and a thing of fuel. I'm going to have duct tape. I always keep the mittens and the hat in my vehicle with it all the time. And the other things that I've shown you, sometimes I'll have these freeze-dried meals. Sometimes I'll just make my own. I will definitely have the oatmeal because I think, your first meal of the morning really helps up your energy level. After you've been tired and sleeping all night, if one, you change your clothes, you use your skivvy roll, change into clothes, B, get some breakfast and a hot drink in you, you're going to do better. The only other thing that's really not that much on my list is something that I came about by accident. And that is a fleece blanket. Fleece blankets. The nice thing about fleece blankets is, as long as there's no wind on you, they keep you warm. Now, once the wind's blowing, the wind goes right through them, cuts right through you. The Army makes the green version of this called a poncho liner. And someone, somewhere along the way, came up with the bright idea of putting a zipper on it. And the zipper makes it into a sleeping bag. So I have one like this in the vehicle I drive every day. I have one in my work vehicle, and I have one of these in my wife's vehicle because we talked about, a blanket is good, sleeping bag is better. With that, we've gone over all the main points. Any questions? I'm going to be around for about 20 minutes. And you think of something. You got your fire starter, 2 emergency blankets, and it's not a survival kit. It's a survival starter kit. Survival starter kit, because there's more things that you're going to want to put in a survival kit. But you got a place to get started, and you've got your sheets to jog your memory what I need to put in. When you go home, there are 3 things I want you to do. 3. 1, I want you to get some garbage bags. I want you to put them in your glove compartment. 2, I want you to take a space blanket. Emergency, I want you to put it in your glove compartment. 3, I want you to get some water bottles, whether it's the big ones or small one, and put it in your car. Everything else is luxuries. Those are your lifesavers. Garbage bag, space blanket, water. Everything else you can live without, but you can't live without those. Thank you much. And I really love these bivy bags. They're worth every penny.